Hello everyone. In this video, I will show you how to make this Coca-Cola product render in Blender. I will be covering 3D modeling, label design, lighting, and rendering in this video. Let's get started. First, open a new general Blender file and delete everything in the scene. Next, load in the reference image of the Coca-Cola can and position it in the center of the scene. You can find a link to the reference image in the video description. Start modeling the can by adding a cylinder. Click on the little panel that pops up in the bottom left part of your screen when you first add the object. Adjust the settings in this panel to an approximate can size. After making the cylinder the correct scale, move it so that the bottom of the cylinder is touching the scene origin. Scale the reference image to match the cylinder scale if needed. Once the reference image is scaled and aligned, start adding loop cuts to the cylinder in edit mode. Scale these loop cuts to form the can shape. Add a subdivision surface modifier and a bevel modifier to retain sharp edges. In the next part of this video, I create the top of the can. I'm not going to explain this part since you really don't need it if you just want to make the final render. But if you want to create the full can, you can follow along. If not, skip to the next chapter. Once the top of the can is done, unwrap the faces around the can's body. This is where the label will be applied. Add a blank black texture to the faces where the label will go. Apply a metallic texture to the rest of the can. Label design. Open a new Adobe Illustrator document set to 4096 by 4096 pixels. You can also use a free alternative software like Inkscape for creating the label. The process will probably be different though. Then load in the reference image of the Coca-Cola can. I used a different image from the one I used to model the can, since this one shows the label design a little bit better. You can find a link to this image in the video description. After positioning the image to fill the y-axis of the Illustrator document, start by adding an ellipse for the round Coca-Cola icon. Then hide the circle and load in the Coca-Cola logo. An SVG Coca-Cola logo can be found in the description. Scale the Coca-Cola logo and move it into place. Next, make a big rectangle underneath the other graphics. This will be the main color of the label. Adjust this color to a dark red tone. Hide the background square and start adding the text onto the label. I use the Gotham font family for the text on this label. After adding the main text, make sure you add the 140 calories badge. Use a rectangle and the pen tool to draw the white badge shape. I use Myriad Pro as the font for this text, but you can use any basic font. The last text to add to the can is the volume contained in the can, which can be found right underneath the calories badge. The next thing to add is the wavy lines on the can. To make this effect, use the polar grid tool in order to make concentric circles. Then apply a stroke to these circles. Next, go to the Object tab and select Envelope Distort, Make with Mesh. Set the amount of points to 10 or something like that. Then, using the white mouse tool, move these points around until you get a cool wavy effect. Now the label design is complete. Export this document as a PNG image. Back in Blender, load this image texture into the base color of the principled BSDF node of the can texture. Make the can texture metallic. Create a camera and move it to face the front of the can. Add a floor plane. Then make a background plane and move it back so there is a space between the floor plane and this background plane. Add a spotlight and position this below the floor plane, pointing it up at the background plane. Adjust the position and intensity of this light until it creates a nice contrast between the can shape and the background. Next, add an area light and position it to the right side of the can. This light should create a nice band of light along the side of the can. After adding this light, add a reflection plane to the opposite side of the can so there is a nice diffuse light for the can. Just adjust and add more lights to your liking. I added some very faint lights right above and behind the can to create a red glow around the base of the can. Once the lighting is done, add some water droplets to the can. I used a free add-on for this. Link to the add-on in the description. Now your scene is ready to render. You can adjust the color and brightness of the render after the fact if you think it needs it, or just leave it how it is. You should now have a great looking product render that you can use in your portfolio. If you followed this tutorial, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Would you like to see more tutorials on product rendering in Blender? Thank you for watching.